A little while back, I released a review on what I considered my top 3 combo flashlights. Those are flashlights that do flood and throw in one light. And this light, the LoopGear SK-05, came out on top. Well, now I got good news because there's a new version out with further refinements. Welcome back to Shul Lights. So I'm here to talk about the LoopGear SK-05 Pro in the MAO or micro arc oxidation finish. We got it right here on the right. So this is the one I reviewed in my top combo shootout of 2024. I did it in December, so about 6 months ago. And it was by far the best light of the 3. Now I want to be clear here. All 3 lights I picked, which were the Olight Marauder Mini, the AceBeam Terminator M1, and then the LoopGear SK-05. All 3 of them are stellar lights, and you couldn't go wrong with any of them. But I went through every single aspect of the 3, and I gave them points, and this one came out on top. This is definitely my favorite combo flashlight to date. Right now, still my favorite. If you want to see that video, want to dive into competition, just click at the link right here and you can see that full shootout. But I want to let you know, if you don't have to watch that video, just know that this is still my favorite. And what's so great is it is now followed by the micro arc oxidation version, which looks amazing, but also there's some subtle refinements in it that we're going to get to. So first off, let's take a look at the micro arc oxidation version itself. So let's get a good focus on this. You can see that it's got a kind of a stone, not stone washed, but like it's made of stone, right? It's got little speckles in it. Now, if you don't know what micro arc oxidation is, it's different than the typical type 3 hard anodization that you get on lights. And the big complaint about micro arc is it tends to pick up fingerprints and grime easily. That's why I'm really happy that this has this kind of like off-white stone finish to it. Some of the lights I've had that were MAO finishes, micro arc oxidation, are white, and white as a finish on a flashlight has been kind of a holy grail for a while. But I think as soon as they delivered it, people realized how cumbersome it was, because it just, as I said, it tracks dirt instantly, chips easily. So the fact that this finish right here has this kind of like speckled kind of stone look is going to hide little tiny scuffs, little tiny dirt pickups that you might have. Now, besides its good looks, the SK-05 MAO edition, it had, let me just say that it's been slightly upgraded, okay? Now, if you already have an SK-05, this is not a wholly different light. But if you don't have one yet, now's a great time to pounce, because they've definitely made some slight changes that we're going to get into. Let's take a look at the box really quickly. So I'm going to slide these aside, and here is the box it comes in. Nice little box here with a magnetic flap. And when you open it up, there is a really good manual here, actually. I say it's good because it's fully illustrated, very easy to read. I found, and you know what? And that's a welcome thing, because you're going to find out that this light has a ton of features. Now, the good news is the light and the UI is pretty ergonomic, and you can kind of figure it out without reading a manual, but you're going to definitely want the manual, and you're going to want to save it, because there's certain things that you would not know about unless you read it. Okay. Now, I also point out that in this box comes this little minor box here, and in there is a USB to USB cable, because this light also functions as a power bank, and also a clip, and the clip can be screwed on. I'll show you an optional holder here that you can get, and this holder has the screw-on clip. So if you look, it would go right here, and as I said, the clip's in here with screws. Now, I actually kind of prefer the hold here without the clip, so I left it on. What's great about this holder, which, as I said, it's optional, is you can slide it on, get a clip when you need it, leave it on your belt, just pull it out to use it. I think this is a great add-on if you want to look for it. Okay, so on the front end, you've got both the reflector and the TIR optic. On the side here, you have a dial with a dial that has the different modes, and then a button in the center, and the button feels great. And I also want to point out this dial and button is improved from the previous version. This button just feels clickier. I don't know. It's a better button. I don't know what they did to it, but it feels better. Not that this one felt bad. And the dial here, let's get a really good close-up on it. You can see the dial has some subtle knurling on it, or milling, I should say. And here it didn't. It wasn't a problem to turn this before, but it did. My finger would definitely slide on it a little bit. Here, it's just a very positive feel, so that is welcome. And that is emblematic of, you know, these little tiny refinements you're going to see throughout the light. Now, on the side here, you got a side light, and then on this side, you got a flappy doodle with both a charge port and a power bank. It's USB-C, of course. Let's peel this back so you can see it. USB-C. And as I said, it's bidirectional. It goes both ways as far as power. Right here is a lock. You push this down, and that lets it push in right here. So what I'm trying to say is, when this is towards the end, this button is locked out. When I pull it this way, then I can push this button, and then the tail cap opens to reveal the two 18650 batteries, which are 4,000 milliamp hour, and they do run in parallel. I talk about that in pretty good detail in the other video I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So I talk about a kind of a trick where you can run on one battery to save some weight, and it becomes feather light if you do so. Let's take a look at, so this side is pretty plain. This is where the clip would go. And then that's all sides. Okay, there you go. Oh, and I also want to point out there's a nice grip here. There, was a grip before, but this grip is nice because it's also magnetic. So for example, I take both of these, you'll see they stick together. And so it's a magnet, you can stick it to surfaces. But let's actually dive into the UI now. So the UI is pretty explanatory, and I'm not going to go into every little thing, or else this video would be just enormous. You can read the manual. But there is a lockout mode here, and if you're in this position, whatever you push, it's not going to function. Okay, so that's just a fail-safe lockout. If you rotate to this first position right here, let me get really close on this. You can see that it looks like a floody light symbol. And if I push it, sure enough, the floodlight comes on. If you press and hold, it cycles through low, medium, high, low, medium, high. If you double tap, you go to turbo. Double tap, it returns to the previous mode, okay? If you leave it on and switch to this next one, which is a spotlight, you'll see that it automatically flips over to the other side. And again, press and hold, and it's low, medium, high. Low, medium, high. With a double tap to turbo. Double tap again, and it returns to where you're at. If I switch this icon here, that is a side light. The side light's really complicated, so I'm just going to gloss over it really quickly. Definitely check the manual out for more. But I will point out that there's basically like 8 different modes. So right now, I'm in a solid color. If I double tap, I rotate to a different mode. So every time I double tap, I get to something different. You see here's like kind of a scroll. Here's like a Cylon looking thing. Here's like a rainbow thing, and so on. If I double tap again, okay, I'm back. Now, while I'm in this mode, I can press and hold, and it'll rotate through different appearances of this mode. In this case, it is different brightnesses of this warm white side light. And I want to take a moment to point out that if you notice me going through the UI and I didn't mention a moonlight, that's because there's no moonlight on the two main groups here, the flood and the throw. But that's because there's a dedicated side light that you're going to use as a moonlight. So I'm actually okay with that. I'm okay with the idea that, I'll tell you why too, because if I'm using a moonlight, it's because I want to preserve my dark adaptation. I don't want to blast somebody. So the idea of rotating to the side light to get into this sounds great to me. It sounds like an obvious thing that I can do repeatably. But I also want to point out that there's a quadruple tap. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, notice it just changed to kind of like a, a more neutral white instead of a warm white. If I quadruple tap again, 1, 2, 3, 4, you see now I'm in a cool white. So the side light It has a warm, a neutral, and a cool light. And the other modes also have that quadruple tap feature, which is typically kind of a dimming feature on most of them. But again, check the manual. It's really complicated. One last thing I'll point out about the side light is there's also a triple tap. If I go 1, 2, 3, I get into a red-blue flasher here. And then if I press and hold, it'll rotate to a red and white. And I press and hold again, and I get a flashing SOS. All right, well, that's enough of the side light. Now what I'd like to do is talk about a couple other hidden features that are new on this light. For example, the original SK-05, the only way you could lock out the light was by turning it to the lockout dial mode. Then they released a upgrade version in the middle there, which had an auto lockout. So if you didn't use the light for 60 seconds, I believe, the light would just automatically lock out. Now what you'd have to do is you have to rotate it back to lockout mode and then off lockout mode, and that unlocked it again. Some people found that cumbersome. Some people decried that it was a bad change. Well, what's great about this light is it's optional, okay? So let me show you how it works. You're gonna click from off 6 times or 7 times or 8 times. Why 6, 7, 8? Because they toggle the auto lockout on the 3 different light modes. So going back to it, and this is the last UI thing we'll talk about here. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it was flashing green the whole time. That's because I'm on lockout. Duh. You got to go to one of these 3 modes. Okay, let's try again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice it goes green a couple times and then red. That means I just toggled lockout on channel 6, which I believe is a flood. Fact check me on that. I don't remember if it's a flood, then the spot, then the side light, or vice versa. But if I now go like 7 clicks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's going to go red and then green because the other channel just unlocked, okay? And again, fact check me on that. I can't remember if it finishing on green means that there is an auto lock or not an auto lock. I don't remember. But my point is they're there, and once you set them the way you want, you've got them forever. All right, let's talk about the battery and charging. So you saw a little earlier that you can flip this open like this and access the 2 batteries that are included very easily. That is awesome because, planned obsolescence is not a thing for this light. You can get off-the-shelf 18650s and put them in there. Now, the only thing I want to point out is these 18650s have to be button top. They don't have to be protected. In fact, they probably shouldn't be protected because of the high output of the light. But they have to be button top because if you look at the inside of the light here, let's see if we can get it in there. There we go. See that gold in there? It's actually inset. It's reverse polarity protection is really what it is. The light has to have this because it's in parallel. Let's pretend you had one light in the proper way and then you switched around like this. That would be really bad, right? She got the reverse polarity here. But the good news is this will not do anything bad because that physical lockout there, the wrong pole can't touch and make connections. So this battery is essentially isolated. So good news, bad news situation, right? The good news is the physical battery polarity reverse protection is awesome, but you need the included button top, or if you buy replacement batteries, you got to get a button top. If you get a flat top battery, it's not going to work unless you get like a little convoy spacer, like a little MC PCBs with the buttons. That would work. Okay. Now, more about the battery. I want to tell you that to do battery check, if any mode, so if you're in lockout here and you rotate to any mode, on the side, it's going to light up like this. If it lights up all the way to the top blue, that means it's 100% charged, and then it has different segments down to show how charged it is. Now, also, it has you can charge in the light, the batteries. You don't need a standalone charger, but also you can use it as a power bank, and I'd like to show that now. So if I take my phone here and I take a very long USB-C cable I have. Open up the flappy doodle here. And then, twist this out of the way a little bit. And then plug it in there. Now, what's awesome is you do not have to set it to any specific mode. You can even leave it in lockout, I noticed. So lockout on the light, but as long as it's plugged in and you plug it into your phone, give it a moment. And what you're going to notice is this is going to start cycling this way. And when the light is pushing up towards the emitters, that means it's dumping power. And you can see on the top of my phone here, like tap, that there's a little charging symbol right there next to the 74, indicating that the phone is charging. Now, if you are dumping power into the light, it goes the opposite direction. It goes down towards, let's say, the battery tail cap, and that tells you that the flashlight is actually receiving power and it's charging. All right, let's talk about the emitters. Color, CCT, tint, all that. So there's two versions of the light available. There is a Nichia 519A version, and there is also a SST-25 version. And when you look at the two that I have here, this one is a Nichia, and the version I have is actually pretty warm. It's about 4,000K, but I think it's a prototype. If you look at their website, you can see that there is a 5700K Nichia 519A. This is a high CRI version, just tends to be kind of a more daylight look. But there's also the 6500 Kelvin SST-25, which I have on the right here. Now, which one is the right one for you? Okay, now if you've watched my channel enough, you know that I care about CRI and tint. But I don't think that that's always something you go for, okay? Is this something I go for in an EDC light that I carry on my body? Absolutely. EDC lights are not expected to push out a ton of lumens, and I'm not going to drive them hard. But what I do want is great color rendition, and I want great CCT, or correlated color temperature. But, you know, with the SK-05, this is a special light. This is not an EDC light for me, at least. For me, this is the kind of thing I'm going to carry around town, maybe at like a holiday, like, you know, Christmas or something. And I'm looking at, you know, house lights and stuff. And I'm going to want a walking light that I can also, you know, if I need to, punch out and see something far away. So when I go for this light, I think that the cool white, low CRI emitters that are high efficiency, high lumen in the new MAO version are better choice than the Nichia. Okay, and I'm going to make that claim right now. Now, if you don't believe me and you want to get the Nichia, then fine, get the Nichia. I mean, they offer both versions. But let's go to my integrating sphere and let me show you why I think that this is a better version. First up, we got the Nichia version here, and I'm going to do the flood. Now, I'm going to hold the flood right over this hole. There's going to be a little bit of light leak here, so this isn't authoritative, but I'm going to go turbo. And you'll see that we're at about 2250 lumens, okay? Now, let's do the flood on the new version with the SST-25. Same deal, double tap. And you can see that I've got, you know, 2650, a little bit more lumens. Now let's go to Spotlight in the Nichia version. Let's go to Turbo, double tap. And we got 1350. Now let's go to the Spotlight on the new version. And you got 1550. So now the difference in the floodlight isn't a huge amount of lumens, but let me not finish my argument yet, okay? There's two other reasons why I still think you should go for the SST-25 over the Nichia, okay? Let's take a look at the wall back here for a second. So on this version I have, if I double tap, this is the Nichia version. Now, I did say mine's a prototype. It's probably a little warmer. But I want to point out that when I switch over to the spot, do you see how the color like shifts? Okay, now let me press and hold to get both channels at once, and you can see that the hotspot is much cooler than the spill provided by the floodlight. Okay, now on the new version, the two emitters are better matched. So let's go to the flood first. You see how cool the flood is, and then let me switch the spot, and you see how there's almost no difference in temperature? I really like that actually in a combo light. And if I turn it off and put on both, look at how much better this all melds together. Also notice that the geometry of the niche, the dome, is such that it's actually floodier. See how floody the niche is on the niche version? But on the SST25, you can see it's more concentrated within a spill. So I already love that a lot more. Now, lastly, and this is the final nail in the coffin for me to why you shouldn't get the niche and you should get the SST25, let's take a look at some thermal imaging I did. All right, so here's some thermal imaging. I'm going to flip these lights over so you can see that they're relatively cool. I'm making sure that they're set to the same lockout. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set them both to the spotlight, okay? On the right, I have the new version with the SST25, and on the left, I have the niche. Now, I'm going to double tap both like I just did, and you can see that the left emitter on both is getting hot. If you're an eagle-eyed observer, you might even notice that the one on the right is getting a little bit hotter. You see that? It's a little bit whiter. And I'll loop back to that and explain why in a second, okay? But they're mostly the same. Now I turn them off. I'm going to switch to the flood. Now remember, the right side is the SST25 and the left side's niche. Now they're both on turbo. And now look, the left side is significantly hotter than the right light. Can you see how the left light on the right, where the flood emitters are, is a bright white? And you can see that at the top of my little legend there, it's going to approach about 130 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of this test, whereas the one on the right is much cooler, even though they're both on turbo. Okay? And see, here I'm touching it. And by the way, 130 degrees Fahrenheit is about 55 degrees Celsius, which you can touch 55 degrees or somewhere around 60 degrees Celsius. It starts to be really uncomfortable. Okay, now let's talk about what we just saw on that test. Okay. Initially, I turned them on and I was on the spotlight channels, and this one was a touch hotter than this one. Why? Because this one is driven harder, as we just saw in the integrating sphere. Okay, so that's a welcome addition that they've just kind of eked out a little bit more throw and a little bit more lumens on the spotlight channel. But now, here's the thing. We just saw in the integrating sphere that the new one with the SST25 is brighter and has more candela because it's a more concentrated hotspot, and yet it runs cooler. So that's the argument for a low CRI, high efficiency emitter in a light like this. I don't think that a light like this is the light I'm going to go for when I want high CRI. That I'm going to leave that to one of my pocket EDC lights or headlamp or something like that. So I think that's a welcome addition. I think they've done the right changes here. And one last thing that I didn't even mention. Let's go ahead and put it on flood really quickly here and turbo into my hand. And I don't know if you can see. Yep, you can see. There's now a glow gasket underneath the TR optic. So that's cool. And it's one of the good glow gaskets that glows for hours after you charge it. So if you run it, set it down, and you're in total darkness, you're going to be able to find it again for up to several hours. All right, I got the two versions with me, the older one with the niche and the new SK-05 Pro with the cool white SST25 emitters. And this one is just a winner for me. First off, let's take a look at the profile in front of us here. So on the niche, let me go to turbo. You can see how floody it is, just absolutely floody. But on the newer one, it's actually more candela. See how there's a bright hot spot in the middle here and then kind of a spill outward? All right, now let's take a look on this tree right here. This tree is 20 meters. This tree over here is 55, and in the back, we're at 150. So let's start out with the niche. Okay, there's that tree. Now let's go to the SST25. Noticeably brighter. Let's go to 55 meters, niche. I'm hitting it. I'm hitting it. Let's go to the SST25. Oh, noticeably brighter. Let's go back and forth. Niche, SST25, niche, SST25. It's a big difference. All right. Now, neither of those hit the trees in the back, but let's go to the throw channel for that. So here's the old throw channel, which is so much brighter than the flood, right? And we're going all the way back 150. But the new channel's even brighter. So let's take the new one. Oh, it's definitely brighter. Oh, look at the difference. Hang on. Look at the difference of 55 meters. That's the old one. Here's the new one. That's a big difference. Old one, new one. It's way brighter. Now let's look at the new one at 150 meters. Yeah, it's definitely a notch brighter than the old one. So that's a welcome improvement on the new design. All right, the new and improved SK-05 Pro with micro arc oxidation finish is now ready for sale. And if you can go straight to their website here and notice that they got 20% sale off right now. I think they're running this through mid-July here. So jump on it. It's probably going to go up to, I think, 160, I think is where it's going to be. But anyways, it's $127.99 right now. Also notice that down here, you can get it right on Amazon if you want. I want to point out that if you want a combo flashlight, this is still the best combo flashlight on the market by far, because one, it has the best interface. Two, it's the smallest and it fits in your hand so good. You know, on paper, I think the Ace Beam Terminator M1 looks better because it's an LEP, and then it has the Nichia emitters that run really bright, except the shape of it is just awful. It feels terrible in your hand. It's just a little too big, and it's bumpy and lumpy. And also the buttons on the side, they are like a guessing game. You're always trying to figure out what does what. And the fact that you have to, you know, the way you hold it and where your thumb fits. Watch my other review. I hated the UI on that light. Now, I like the UI on the Olight Marauder Mini, but it is a big light. It's half a kilogram and really chonky. So for all those reasons, I think this is the go-to light. And I don't just think like on paper. I'm telling you, I've been using the Marauder Mini for a while now, and walking with it is heavy and it gets big. And as I said, the Terminator, I can't get over the interface. But on this one, you can slip it in your pocket. It feels great in your hand. It makes a lot of sense. So if you want a combo flashlight, this is still the light to get. The LoopGear SK-05. As I said, go to their website right now because you can get it on sale. Hope you enjoy this review. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next review.